Hello, caller. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Derek Price from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey, Derek. So for those of you who don't know, Derek Price, he's a CEO at American Addiction Centers. He's a former Detroit Lion and a lot of other things. So, Derek, we're really happy to have you on the air with us. How's Vegas?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. You know what? It's a heck of a lot better than Austin was last week. I'll tell you that, man. It's back in the warm, bro. I was shoving in snow last weekend, trying to melt it to flush toilets. So,
damn,
back to be good, man. Back to be good.
But yeah, so I know we brought you on a somber story, the whole tragedy that happened with Vincent Jackson, and so
yeah.
What do you make of that situation as someone who's kind of an expert on NFL players and addiction?
Well, I appreciate the honor of being called an expert, but when it comes to mental health and substance abuse, we're still trying to work it out. You know, I've read through all the Vincent Jackson stories, and we have, we know people who know each other and whatnot. So when I take a look at it, you know, it's the isolation, and the man must have had some mental health issues, and could that be exacerbated by what's going on in the world today and COVID? You know, was it CTE that may have led to the exacerbation of his anxiety and stress, fears, PTSD, possibly CTE? But, you know, when people get in isolated scenarios and they lose touch with other people and they start feeling a certain kind of way and they try and self-medicate with that substance, you know, it's never a good outcome, man. And when people are doing it in isolation like they are in COVID right now, we're just seeing more and more deaths. It's tragic. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned CTE and head injuries, but are there anything else that comes with being an NFL player or a football player, that lifestyle that kind of can make this more amplified or make, you know, people more susceptible to that?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. And I just recently did another interview, very, very similar topic. But, you know, put yourself in the place of an NFL player, right? Mm-hmm. Like 90% of the players, myself included, are guys that you'll never know the name of. But the other 10%, the Brett Favres, Barry Sanders, Vincent Jacksons of the world, their jerseys are hanging in thousands of people's homes. They're on video games. You know their name. You watch them on TV. You cheer for them. Every time they go to work, 100,000 people stand up and applaud when they walk in the door. It's a big deal. So you live your life with this almost royal-esque type feeling, like you're a hero to some children. You're a role model to others. And then you're living this you're playing this game as a mercenary, as a football player. You're constantly in pain. Things are constantly broken. But, you know, the old saying, you can't make the club sitting in a tub. Mm-hmm. An injury can put you on a sideline, and as soon as you're on a sideline, who knows who comes in, and you may never play again. So You learn from an early age to start hiding your injuries. You never talk about pain. You're around a bunch of alphas. The last thing you want to do is expose a weakness, not only to your teammates, but definitely to the other team, because they'll exploit it. So that's kind of the culture you grow up in, right? Like, rub some dirt on it, tough it out, you know, don't talk about it. You know, everybody's hurt and move on. Well, you get outside the game, and those injuries, they still come with you. But you make a bad choice. Maybe you have mental health issues. Maybe they're exacerbated. As we know, substance abuse and mental health tie together about 80% of the time. And you start to self-medicate. You start to drink. You start to take pills, whatever it does to relieve that pain. That pain could be a physical pain. It could be from surgeries, injuries. It could be from, you know, the depression of legitimately, guys, think about it. You walk into work, and 100,000 people stand up and clap for you. And when that game is over, that doesn't happen anymore, you know? So it's a total different life. So now you're struggling, and you know you're struggling, and you're taking pills, and you're drinking alcohol. But the stigma of coming out and letting people know you have a problem could tarnish your reputation. Heck, Vincent Jackson, multi-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
How do we talk about him? How are we going to know him now? As a man who unfortunately succumbed to the pressures of substance abuse. You know what I mean? Like, you could win all the Super Bowl rings, however many you want to win, but if you get stuck in the bottle and you're taking pills and that becomes your lifestyle, that's the news cycle. That's what they're going to run, and that's how you're going to be remembered. That's your legacy. So there's a stigma behind being that alpha football player that just says, hey, man, I got to hide this from people. Like, and I wish I could get help, but I don't want the world to know. I don't want my fans to know. I don't want those children that looked up to me to know that I'm struggling here, that I can't take care of my own. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest issue when it comes to the professional athletes, when it comes to public figures, is they've built a career on their name, on their reputation, on their brand, and they don't want to tarnish it. And unfortunately today, unlike cancer, diabetes, and other illnesses and sicknesses, even though we know substance abuse is a disease, we treat it like it's a degenerate's problem. Like, oh, you want to not be an alcoholic? Just stop drinking.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that worked. But that's not how the brain processes when you have the disease of addiction. It's just not. It's a disease. And, you know, we're all driving down the road right now. You look over and see a child or who may have cancer who can't cross the road for whatever ailments or illnesses. Nobody listening in right now would think twice about stopping and getting out of their car to help that child across the street. You drive down the road and you see somebody with mental health issues struggling with substance abuse, you're going to look the other way and go around them. So that's the unfortunate reality of the world we live in and where our consciousness is at right now. And it's that stigma of not wanting to be that guy labeled as somebody that's, I don't know, quote unquote crazy, PTSD, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, potentially CTE. All of that combines not a good combination. Then you start self-medicating with pills and alcohol. That's dangerous, man.
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
And when you factor all that in, I mean, Jackson came out of Northern Colorado. That's not necessarily a powerhouse for football, and he managed to do all the great things he did. When you look at NFL players and, you know, once you retire, it's like that's the end, and you're in your 30s, and you have to live the rest of your life. How even did you deal with the fact that I've been so successful in this one thing, and now I have to figure everything else out? How did you deal with, I don't want to say like the rug being kind of ripped out from underneath you, but just kind of finding your balance after all that?
Hey, another great question. And this is going to sound really weird, and it's going to sound very off to the audience or to y'all. But my career ended with a spine where I broke my neck. I was playing, I broke my neck, and case in point, I played 4 games after I broke my neck because I didn't want to tell anybody that I couldn't feel my arm and my shoulder was numb. That was my symptom for my broken neck. I didn't want to tell anybody. I still played. I was still going head-to-head with Ken Norton Jr. against the Niners. I was still running down on kickoffs because I knew if I went and I said something, there was a high probability that a guy like me was never going to see the field again. I was going to get cut, dropped, that's a wrap. So I left at the end of the season, and when I came back for the first OTA for the next year, I walked in and my right arm's 19 inches, my left arm was like 12 inches. All the nerves had died, the muscles had died. They immediately saw something was wrong. They sent me out to the doctor. The doctor's like, you got a broken neck. Immediately sent me out for surgery. So for me, it was easy to walk away from the game, or easier, because the door was closed and sealed. There was no opportunity for me to play again. There was no chance that I could get back in and live in that limelight. That was just flat out done. Career-ending injury. So when that door closed, I didn't ever look back and wonder, if I would have, could have, maybe I should try another year. I should hang out and work out more. I should stay around the game. I didn't leave with a bad taste. I was like, that was amazing. I loved it. The coach at the time, Bobby Ross, gave me the opportunity. He said, hey, listen, I know you're injured. You're still under contract. If you want to stay on the team this year, I'll put you on IR. You can travel, do all that kind of stuff, et cetera, or you can get on with your life. And I shook his hand and said, I appreciate your opportunity, coach. And I was out the door. And I moved on with my life. And for me, that was easy because there was no opportunity to go back. Now, did I love every second of it? Man, of course. I worked my whole life to get there. But it's the guys that leave because they aged out, or somebody came along better, or they're making too much money and they could be replaced by a rookie to do the same job that makes less. I mean, you got to imagine, guys, there's 53 active players on a roster. It's about 1,500 active NFL football players at any given time.
Yep.
And if you're trying to make the club next year, there's already guys on the team filling those spots. For you to make an NFL roster, you have to kick somebody out of the NFL.
Plus
so
the
to get in there
squad,
is very,
plus
very difficult.
All the free agents and
Future
everyone else
contracts.
just trying to even get in the dance too.
Yeah. So it's tough getting in. And once you get invited into that dance, man, you do not want to get off it. And I will tell you, when you do get out, those guys in the locker room, they're still your friends, but you're in different worlds now.
Yeah.
You can still reach out to them. You can still talk to them. They'll break bread with you and send you a Christmas card, but you're not on the train anymore. And that train moves, man. Like, if you're not in the locker room, you're not in the crew, you're not in the clique.
Yeah.
And it departs. And you feel left and you feel abandoned. I've seen it with lots of my friends and lots of, guys I know that have come out of the league, is they feel lost when they get out. Because they went into college knowing that they were somebody who was probably going to get to the NFL. They may or may not have got a degree, but their future was NFL. And in a snap, that dream can end. And then you're standing there going, wait a second. Everybody used to, heck, man, when I was in the NFL, nobody charged me for dinner. I was making all the money in the world. Nobody charged me for limo ride, dinner, golf, nothing. You get out of the NFL, you don't have any money, and everybody charges you everything. It's a totally different world. So that can lead to, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm isolated. My crew, my locker room, my boys, they're gone. And now you're kind of like, you're starting from zero again. Like, what's my new direction? Now, a lot of guys are very, very successful at it and do an amazing job. But there's a reason why 80% of guys that leave the NFL are broken 2 to 3 years after they leave. So they don't know how to adjust to a normal mainstream life, which can lead to mental pain, mental health issues, things that they should be getting help for, having some counseling. The NFL is doing a better job now. Matter of fact, right before we got on this call, there was a commercial on mainstream TV where they're talking about mental health. I was like, holy crap, I've never seen that before. So they're making moves. The NFLA, under Chuck Beasley, is constantly pushing the message. Mental health, substance abuse, guys, you got to take care. You got to take care. But, it's just not, the message isn't out there loud enough yet. Society doesn't view this as a disease. It still views it as a bad choice that you could just put down and walk away from. So I feel very sorry for the entire Jackson family and all his friends.
Indeed. And when you think about the mindset of an athlete, just to even be the best at that level, there's a certain form of, maybe you could say, toxic ambition with that. And then you throw in, substance abuse and mental health. How do you get people to understand that they have to take all that ambition and intensity that they used where they were the best in the world at something and filter that into something that rounds them out as a person? Because I'm pretty sure it takes, it's not like an easy path.
Yeah, it's I would say, from my history of knowing, my brothers that have played and whatnot, it sounds like it should be easy. It sounds like, hey, you should step out of the game and you've made some money. You should be able to move into whatever career field, finish your education if you didn't, pay for businesses to start up, etc. But you have to remember that the majority of these guys in the NFL, and I'm not talking about everybody, I don't want a blanket statement, but the majority, they kind of had an idea by the time they were in high school that they were special. And then they get to college and they're special. And they kind of know that they're going to move on and they're going to make their career in the NFL. And I'm telling you, nobody goes into the NFL saying, hey, I want to do 1 or 2 years. They're all like, I'm going to do 10, 15 years. I'm going to rack up X amount of dollars, and then I'm just going to sit fat on the beach. Well, that happens to like 2% of the guys. You know what I mean? Like, so the rest of the guys are left standing there. They have a little bit of dough in the bank, but they don't even know, like, what do you want to do? It's not even a thought process that they've ran through their mind. Do I want to be a school teacher? Do I want to be a chemist? Do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a lawyer? Like, where do I go from here? They're back to zero. And if they don't have the support system around them or the ambition or the drive around them, it's hard to know even where to go. And like I said to myself, the silver lining of my neck injury was I knew that career was over. Most guys get pushed out of the league because somebody younger, faster, a little bit better came in. So they try and hold on for 2 and 3 years, working out, running from coaches, running to combines, trying to stay in the mix. and the depression just builds because year after year nobody picks them up. They keep going to training camps and they're not making it. It just builds that overwhelming pressure, and they start to get paranoid about the fact that, man, when I used to walk in the room, everybody wanted to talk to me, shake my hand, get autographs. Now I walk in the room, people, they don't even pay me any mind. So it's like living a whole new separate life that starts from zero with no run up to it. And it can be shocking.
So let me ask you this. You've talked a lot about, the problems, and there's so many of them. So I guess, what can we do to make it better? Is it a cultural thing? Is it an institutional thing? Is it on the individual? Is it all of the above? What can we do to make it a little bit better?
The answer, I think that you did a good job just putting out all the variables. The answer is, for everybody, it's something, and as a sum total, it's all of the above. Now, I happen to be involved with an amazing company, one of the largest, not only in this United States, but in the world, American Addiction Centers. And the first thing I say when people say, well, what do? I say, why don't you reach out? Reach out to the people at American Addiction Centers and see if there's a path for you. See if this is right for you. See if we can help you. We have, the counselors. They're highly trained, skilled individuals that'll talk through with people. There's no pushy, salesman-y stuff. And that's my business side. Now, to get back to your question, where does it all come from? For everybody, it's different. It can be the demographic they came from. It can be their socioeconomic status. It can be they tried and failed at a career. They blew their money on a bad investment. It can just be they were taking pills while they were playing, and they left and they're taking more pills, or they're still taking pills, and it's catching up to them. And maybe they have CTE. I mean, it is such a large grab bag. But if I were to boil it down and say, what can we do, is we can just keep talking about it. And we can just be loud about it, and we can get the message out that, hey, guys, this is a disease, not a choice. I mean, think about this for a second, gentlemen. Is it logical to say, I want to steal from my family priceless heirlooms, things that they have, to go buy crack on the corner? I want to destroy my family, destroy my marriage, and lose my children because I want to go under a bridge and use heroin. I want to get in the car and drive drunk, even though I know everything that goes bad with that. Those of us listening right now, we would say that's not logical. Well, to somebody with the disease, it's absolutely logical, and it makes total, perfect, rational sense to them. And that's what makes it a disease state. Yep. When you don't have the disease, you can't truly comprehend it because you say, oh, if you have a drug problem, stop doing drugs. But to somebody that has a drug problem with a legitimate addiction issue, that's not an option, or they would. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, definitely, 100%.
I could cure alcoholism by just saying, stop drinking, and it's over.
Yeah,
that's not it.
I think you're talking to people who have lived that cycle, or at least, are close to it. So we definitely know what you're talking about. But
yeah.
Thank you so much, Derek. I wish we could talk longer.
Man. I appreciate you guys letting me get on here.
we could go all night with you. You got some great stuff. If you want to just let the people know where they can find you and follow all the great work that you're doing.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so American Addiction Centers. We are a nationwide company that specializes in substance abuse with a dual diagnosis of mental health. So mental health and substance use, we have the counselors, medical doctors, case managers, everything, all inclusive. It's live-in treatment, it's outpatient treatment, everything in between. And the number you would call is our one phone number, 866-704-6052, 866-704-6052, and that will get you directly to a counselor that will help you navigate it. If you even think that you have a problem, say something, do something. If you think your friend, family, or loved one has a problem, please have the conversation, because you'll regret not having it if the person ends up like Vincent Jackson. I promise you that.
All right, Derek. Well, thank you so much. Stay safe. And
yes, sir. Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you. Have a great one. You
too, brother. Take care.
Shout out to Derek, man. That was dope. He dropped the number. If you need help, don't be afraid to make that call. And I think, we have various levels of athletes who listen to this show. So regardless of if you're a high school athlete or a collegiate athlete or whatever, take care of yourself.